The Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist, whether you're running, swimming, or sleeping. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. The Apple Watch Series 10. Available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generations, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to potentially the first episode of our Golden 20s in 2025, which
Woo-hoo.
is crazy, very futuristic sounding year. And we both love this time of year, and we know that a lot of the listeners do. We tend to have a lot of new listeners at this time of year, and so we wanted to have a very, productive New Year themed episode. So we're going to talk about the best ways to kick off your new year. But before we get into that, we are going to do a connection card. And if you're new, this is something we do every week just so that you can get to know Sadie and I a little bit better. We're using the deck from Happy Tears, but there are lots of different decks. So this week's question is, what are you still a little salty about that you haven't dealt with yet? Why not?
Oh gosh. I'm a Scorpio and I hold grudges, so I'm salty about so many things probably.
Yeah. I feel like for me, something like last year that I set as my intention was to be a badass bitch. And that was coming from a place of being like a people pleaser, where I'm like, I need to start like setting boundaries and like standing up for myself a little bit and trying to like put myself first a little bit. And yeah, lots of people don't like that. Like I found as soon as I started setting boundaries, if it was like at work or socially or anything like that, people got like really weird about it. And then so it was almost like the setting the boundaries wasn't the hardest part. It was like the dealing with the fallout of it, because then my people pleasing comes back and is like, well, just pull back and do whatever you can to make them happy. And so I'm like trying to fight that. And yeah, but then it makes me salty. Like there are just so many instances reflecting back on 2024 where people were then like pushing me or not respecting the boundaries and being toxic about it. And
Right.
I'm like, I need to get over this, but I'm still salty about it and I can't.
Yeah. No, I feel that takes a long time to get over when people aren't respecting your boundaries, so I get that. I feel like the only thing that's really coming to mind for me for like a very specific example, I feel like, and I made peace with this, but like over the holidays, I feel like there's always some sort of like family drama. And like, we're now January where I am over it, but I feel like that was the last time I was feeling like really salty, really having a hard time getting over something, where it was just like trying to coordinate my sister's schedules because they spend some of the holidays with their boyfriends, then with my parents, then when are we going to see the grandparents and all this stuff. We also did Christmas at my apartment for the first time, which was very nice and like exciting, but at the same time it's a lot of work. And at one point, like my family was only going to be here for a day, and I was like, then why am I doing all of this, like getting all these groceries, doing all the laundry just for you guys to be here for one day? So I was like pretty salty about that, but in the end it all worked out to my initial plan. I got in like a good visit with my grandparents, got to see my sisters and my parents for, I think we were all together for like 3 days. And I don't know, it all worked out in the end, but I don't know. That's kind of the last example that comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know, it's a good reminder to be like, yeah, family time is great and the holidays are great, but it often comes along with feeling a little salty one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that is another good one and probably relatable for lots of people listening.
Yeah. And the other thing is like this sort of thing also comes up with friendships and even family. Just the older you get, the harder it is to coordinate everyone's schedules. And that's ultimately what this came down to as well. So I feel like, yeah, even if it's not that specific example, maybe people can relate and know you're not alone. it is frustrating, and it's okay to be salty about it. Sorry, I also am getting over a cold, so if I sound like I'm half dying, it's because I kind of am, but...
Great. Well, I think we can dive into our tips and tricks to kick off a new year. Like I said, we both, I feel like, really like the New Year's. At least I do. I get like so excited for it. And yeah, I just love the fresh start, the planning of a new year, reflecting on the past year. I feel like people don't always like the reflection part, but I love it. So
me too.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. And that's actually a perfect place to start, Tag. And the first thing I had on the list of how to kick off a new year is by reflecting on the previous year. And if you are a new listener, or if you missed some of our episodes throughout December due to the chaos of the holiday season, you might have missed our Journal with Us episode, but that episode is full of journal prompts. And we also just kind of read out the journal prompt. We give you time just with some like instrumental music to actually journal along with us throughout that episode. And all of it, like all of the prompts are really are really based on reflecting on the previous year and thinking about the year ahead. So if you're feeling intimidated, not sure where to start when reflecting on the previous year, maybe check out that episode. You could even go on Pinterest or just like even Google some like year-end journal prompts or something like that, if you're looking for more than what we had in that episode. But I feel like it's just a really great way to check in with yourself, regardless if you set goals or not for the previous year. Just thinking back on moments that brought you joy, things that you're proud of, things that maybe were really challenging, how you dealt with it. Are you proud of how you dealt with it? Could you have handled it differently now that you're reflecting back on it? Like, I think there's just so much to it that doesn't necessarily need to be tied to how much did I accomplish and like how productive was I, how successful was I? Like, that's not the intention. It's just so much more than that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love the reflection, but oftentimes I don't achieve my goals. So it's not like I love it because I'm like, I did this and I slayed. Me go. Yeah, but it's like I do a vision board and I like looking at the things that came true from the vision board and then looking at the things that didn't come true and thinking about what got in my way and all of that stuff. So I think once you've done the reflection, the next step is to start brainstorming what you want your 2025 to look like. And for me, this is like highly tied to the 2024 reflection, where a couple episodes ago, I talked about how I heard this quote on TikTok that was, if you're not changing, you're choosing. And so I like to look at the previous year and be like, what did it look like? Do I want things to stay the same or do I want them to change? If I want them to change, how am I going to do that? And that's really where I start. I often don't set like large goals, or I know people do breakdowns of like their life into health, into work, and those sorts of things. Mine tend to be a little more vague, which isn't what they tell you to do, but it's what works for me. And so I just sort of start there with the vague ideas of what do I want to happen this year? What do I want it to look like? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like that's a really great spot to start. I typically do think about those pillars of different areas of my life, like you're talking about, where it's like, okay, is this a year where I really want to focus on my career and like searching for a new job, getting a promotion? Or is this like, maybe I want to move this year, maybe I want to focus on this? Like, I try to think of like a key area I want to focus on and then set a big goal in that area, but then set some smaller goals in other areas of my life too, or even smaller goals that might help ladder up to that kind of like bigger goals. So definitely, I think I take maybe a little bit of a different approach, but I also think if you're, doing the reflection, or maybe you're new to goal setting and you're like, nothing's really just coming to mind. Like, I don't know if I want a new job. I don't know if I want to move. I don't know what I want to focus on. Something that I really like to do is also read my horoscope for the year. And again, maybe you're not an astrology girly, but even if you're not, maybe just glimpse over a horoscope or two just to see if it resonates. For me, I typically find, especially like your 2025 annual horoscope, more so than like a daily, weekly, or monthly horoscope, it kind of pinpoints some of the like main themes. So you can also pull from that as well. For me, like the past few years, it's like really resonated. So that's why I continue to do this. So, and I encourage you to as well. But there is a chance that maybe it doesn't resonate, but just wanted to throw that out there too. And then lastly, something else I was thinking about knowing, well, first of all, I feel like I've actually kind of fallen off goal setting a little bit in the past few years. I set my yearly goals, but I'm not quite as diligent on my monthly goals as I used to be. But if you're not even wanting to set yearly goals, I feel like that's completely fine. And maybe what you do is just take the approach of like listing out things that make you happy and finding ways to incorporate more of that in your new year, in the year ahead. Like, how can you carve out more time to do all of these things that make you happy?
Yeah, I love that. I also wanted to mention, in line with like the horoscope reading, I just did like a tarot card pull and it like struck me to my core. So there's also that option as well. But I love the idea of starting with your horoscope, seeing what's resonating and running from there.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the next thing that I always like to do, but is maybe weird, but I like to make like a 2025 playlist. And it's not necessarily like a workout playlist or like anything like that, but it's just basically songs that make me feel happy, make me feel positive, and put me in a good headspace. And this is the prime time to do it because I feel like I've spent the last month just listening to Christmas music, and I'm just like, okay, what do I even want to listen to now? And so I always start there, and then I usually am playing it while I'm like setting my goals or doing my vision board and some of the other things we're going to talk about.
I love that. I have not ever made an annual playlist. I'll make like seasonal ones, you know, where it's like, these are my songs of the summer, and like, this is my cozy acoustic fall playlist. But I feel like it would be fun to make one for the year and just like add songs to it throughout the year too that are really resonating. I feel like that's a very fun idea. I feel like too, that's just a great way to like curate the vibe. And
exactly,
kind of leading into the next point on our list is to create a vision board or a mood board. And I think, Tag, you were talking about your vision board and reflecting on it, seeing, you know, what things from my vision board did I manifest? What did I achieve? I feel for me, I just create my vision board to have a picture that represents my goals for the year.
Yeah.
And it more so works as like a mood board for me, and more so just like, this is what I want my year to look like. And I don't know, just again, curating the vibe more so than like, I'm manifesting this for myself. So I feel there's a few different ways you can look at it, but all in all, I feel like it's really powerful to spend some time putting like a visual to all of these thoughts that you're having and journaling about. And then you probably have heard this a million times, but it also does something to refer to that a lot throughout the years. So if that's saving it as your phone background or your desktop on your computer, maybe you actually print it out. Like, I feel like having it front and center somewhere you look all the time also has like a powerful way of like working its way into your subconscious, or like reminding you throughout the year, this is my intention. This is what's motivating me to show up for myself.
Yeah. Exactly. I love creating a vision board. It just gets me so hyped. I usually start on Pinterest, and then I have a private board where I just like start pinning things. I am very selective with what I pin, and this is maybe me being a little too woohooey, but I feel like there are just things that I've pinned on a whim in previous years' vision boards where like random stuff in it came true. So I'm like just very like, I don't know, conscious of what I'm pinning. And like some of it's silly. Like last year I pinned a picture of a picnic because I was like, oh, that'd be fun to do a picnic. I did end up doing a picnic, but she in the picture is reading the Throne of Glass series, which at the time when I pinned the picture, I didn't even know it existed. And then this year I ended up reading it. So it's like little stuff like that where I'm just very conscious of only pinning things that really truly resonate, because I feel like you can fall into like when I first started doing it, pinning like 500 pictures of just like
Yeah.
random shit that looks cool, which
Yeah.
is also fun, but it's not really like fulfilling the purpose of what I want. And then, yeah, I'm very pro saving your vision board as your desktop background, or I always set it as my phone background. And this is something I keep seeing on TikTok called like digital witchcraft, because it's like you're looking at this screen for like at least 40 hours a week. So make it something that's actually going to help you achieve your goals. And the other thing I was going to say, you can tell I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah, I love it.
That your Mac can actually cycle through background photos. So you can set multiple boards if that's something you're into. Like if you have the pillars with your goals, you could set one board that's just like fitness, one board that's just like travel, one board that's money, career, whatever. And you can have them cycle through like as frequently as you want. Mine are set to go every half an hour. And yeah, it's just something I like to do. It keeps things fresh, but it's an option in case you're like, some of these are not going together aesthetically, that sort of thing. That could be a good option as well.
I've never had cycling desktops before, but you're
Yeah, it's
selling me
fun.
on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds so fun. And like you said, it's a good way to feel fresh, because I feel like I'll keep my vision board or my mood board as my background for the whole year, but then I don't even look at it anymore because I've seen it so many times. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I think if a vision board's not resonating with you, maybe you take the route of doing a bingo card instead. And this is something I've seen a lot online over the past few years. And essentially what this looks like is an actual bingo card of like different things you want to do this year. So maybe instead of it being like big things like switching jobs or moving or buying a house, like something big like that, that is more of like a goal. Maybe this is like, I want to watch all of the Harry Potter movies. You know, I want to do a picnic in the park, like you were just saying, Tag. Like it can be more activity based, or again, going back to that list of things that make you happy. And essentially throughout the year, you're just checking things off the bingo card. So I feel this is also a great way to set fun goals, if you will, but also in a less pressure way, or like, I don't know, there's less pressure of having a bingo card than being like, I commit to doing this goal this year.
Yeah, definitely. I did also want to mention on like the goal setting front of things. If I was like doing a bingo card or setting my goals, I always try and keep them things that I can actually control, because I found in the past I used to be saying things that were kind of like outside of my control. So to give an example would be like, I want to get a new job, where it's like, that's sort of outside of my control, where instead I would be setting goals that are like, I want to apply to X amount of jobs this month. I want to update my resume. I want to, you know what I mean? So I think for the bingo card, just don't get stuck in the trap of like putting down things that are outside of your control, because then you're going to hit like November and December and being like, okay, well, I haven't done these things, but like it's nothing to do with me really. You know what I mean? So I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I had one other tip just that kind of came to mind while you were chatting that through. And I think it's also, if this is overwhelming for you to think about the whole year at once, maybe you just think about it for January or for the rest of winter, and think of it a season at a time, and create a seasonal or a monthly bingo card or seasonal or monthly goals. Like, I think there's a lot of pressure in January to be like, okay, there's 12 months ahead. You know, what are these 12 months going to look like? I have to decide right now. But that is not the case. And we talked about this actually in our 2024 reflection episode, that going back to your idea of like so many things are outside of your control, like oftentimes your year looks very different in December than you thought it would in January. So no need to put that pressure on yourself. Maybe you tackle it just 1 month at a time, one season or quarter at a time. That's okay too.
Yes, 100%. That's a great tip. I think moving away from like the goal setting stuff, which obviously is a big part of the new year, we're going to talk more about just other general things you can do to start your year on the right note. And one thing for me is I always do a big clean and declutter. Usually this is January 1st. I am a person who I don't start any quote unquote resolutions on the 1st. I start them all on the 2nd. And that's usually just because I love New Year's Eve. I love staying up late, having drinks, partying with people. And then I don't want to wake up and then feel like shitty because I'm tired or I'm hungover or those sorts of things. So I usually spend the 1st taking down my Christmas decorations and just tidying, putting away Christmas gifts, that sort of thing, doing all my dishes, getting my laundry organized, and just having like a cozy day at home where I can clean and start like the 2nd with a fresh space.
I love that so much, and I do the exact same thing. I think this is also when I like to do some of my deep cleaning tasks. So, not just putting away the Christmas decor, but it's also like, okay, let's clean out the fridge. Let's clean out the pantry. Let's go through my closet. Like, let's do some of these things that I don't necessarily do on a weekly basis in my cleaning routine. So I love that so much. And it's also just such a nice feeling to, like you were saying, like declutter as well, where you can donate things that you don't need, your things you've been holding on to. I like to take the approach, especially going through my closet, of being like, did I even wear this at all last year? If not, why am I hanging on to it? But you could do that with other things throughout your house as well. If it's like, I don't know, books or whatever, where it's like, did I even know I had this at all last year? Did I ever pick it up? Like, no, then let's donate it, get rid of it. And you just enter the new year feeling a little bit lighter.
Yes, 100%. I think the next thing is to do an at-home glow up. And this is, for me, on the 1st, usually just looks like an everything shower, but you can really take this like as far as you want with like, doing the face masks. Actually, I did have a little bit of like a face mask moment, and doing the ice roller and all of that stuff, the red light mask, moisturizing, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I am so excited for this. I typically do this like New Year's Eve, or at least I say typically. I've done this New Year's Eve like the past year. I hope to do it again this year, but unfortunately I did get sick and I'm still recovering. But I'm so excited for my post-cold glow up.
Yeah.
That's going to hit so much different because it's like, okay, I put on makeup for you guys to record this today since we are on video. If you didn't know that, you can watch us on YouTube, or even if you're listening to this on Spotify, you can see our faces if you choose. But in any case, I just feel ugly. I've spent the whole month so far just looking ugly. I know that. So I'm like, I can't wait to take that everything shower, moisturize, especially like my face. My skin is so dried out from blowing my nose so much. I also like to do things like whiten my teeth, or I'll get my nails done. But if you don't want to spend money, maybe you just like paint your own nails at home, doing that sort of thing. I also love to wash my makeup brushes and just start everything feeling fresh for a new year.
Yes, I always book all of my beauty appointments to be in the beginning of January as well, because I just find in December, like I'm traveling so much, so busy, a lot of these things I just don't have time to get done. So I also make a point to be like, I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to get a wax. I'm going to maybe get a facial, all of those sorts of things as well. And then add on to that all of the self-care at home, because I also find post Christmas, like my skin's always breaking out because I just live off chocolate for like 2 weeks. And like you said, my skin's always dry. It's dull. Like it's the perfect time to have that little self-care moment at home.
Totally. I love it. Next on our list is trying a fitness challenge. And maybe this is something you do by yourself or you commit to with one of your friends. But I feel like this is important for a few different reasons. The first is if you are somebody that likes the new year and you feel inspired and motivated by it, I feel like this is a great time to take advantage of often like a lot of promotions at gyms, or a lot of YouTube content really falls in the fitness space this time of year, which I kind of have some feelings about that aren't great, but I also am like, okay, if you're feeling motivated, this could be a good time to tap into that. But I also think it's more important that you're moving your body when the winter blues strike. And I think as we get deeper into January and the motivation starts to kind of dwindle down, we get into February and it's still dark, cold days, and you're like, oh my God, is winter ever going to end? And for me, that's usually when my mental health starts to tank and I start to feel like the winter blues. I feel like it's really important to be moving your body for your mental health. And I think having a fitness challenge of some sort is a great way to hold yourself accountable. And it's like a little win within the day. So this could look like doing just daily yoga, could look like doing like a HIIT workout on YouTube. Maybe it's going to the gym X amount of times per week, like whatever it looks like to you. I feel you can make it your own, but I do feel like it is a good time to commit to showing up for yourself and moving your body, not to lose weight, not even necessarily to get strong or anything, but just as a way to show up for your mental health.
Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
Yeah, exactly. I do this every year. I usually do like the 30 days of yoga with Adrienne. But even something like I'm going to go on a walk every day can be such a big impact. And the other thing, I'm learning to be like more gentle with myself in this, because I always struggle with setting like I'm going to do yoga every day, because then as soon as I would get my period, I'm like, I feel like shit and I don't want to do this. So the other thing is I changed my definition of what success looks like, where I used to be like, well, if I'm not going as hard as I physically could, like this day shouldn't even count. Where now me rolling out my yoga mat counts as me showing up for that day. And if I can only manage to do 2 minutes of a 30-minute video, I'm like, that's okay. I showed up, I rolled up my mat, I got on my yoga clothes. That's good enough. So I feel like at this time of year, it's so easy to be like, well, I saw this guy on Instagram who's doing 75 hard. So he did 2 workouts a day and I only did 1. You know what I mean? Like there's all this comparison where it's like, you have to be gentle on yourself too. Like it is January. It's a dark, cold month. And to me, that is being like, all I have to do is show up and that's going to be good enough for me.
That resonates with me so much because I got into running last year and I want to get back into it again this year. Just need to like get out there. But in any case, I was the exact same way where I was like, if I'm not running like minimum 3K, it doesn't even count for a run. If I'm not running like 90% of the time I'm outside, like doesn't even count. Where to your point, it's like, no, you need to be gentle with yourself, show yourself some compassion, and like, who cares how long I'm running, even if I'm walking, but still moving my body, getting fresh air, and really good for me. And who cares if I'm out there for 10 kilometers or 2 kilometers? Like, I got out there. And oftentimes, Yoga with Adrienne says this all the time, but the hardest part is showing up. So it's like, once I'm outside, it doesn't matter if I go for 1 or 10K, but the fact that I'm out there, I'm like, okay, actually, now that I'm here, I might as well, go for 3K, might as well go for 5K. Like, this isn't as bad as I thought that could happen. Or maybe you're like amping up to go for that big run or do that intense yoga video and it's not what you're feeling. So then you just slow it down. Like, that's okay. Be gentle with yourself. Yeah. I love that. Fitness doesn't have to mean pushing yourself to the absolute maximum every single time you show up.
Yeah. Because if you do that, you're not going to stick with it. Like, as someone who used to go super hard on the very first day I tried anything, I'd be sore for 5 days and then it wouldn't stick because you don't want to do it. Yeah. So definitely a key to making like a fitness habit stick. I also wanted to throw out the idea of trying something new in January. And this can be literally anything. For me, I wanted to try like a new Pilates studio. So I made that one of my goals, but it could be trying a new gym, trying a new fitness class, trying a new hobby, a new book genre, any of those things, because like you have no idea how that can impact your year. Maybe you try a new type of workout that then becomes your whole personality. Or like last year, our book club read a fantasy book. And then it's like I read 40 books this year, which was the most I'd ever read in a year because of that. Like, I just think it's a pretty magical spot while you're feeling so motivated to try something out of your comfort zone.
I love it. I'm feeling so inspired by that tag. I think that's such a good thing to like push yourself, especially when you are feeling that motivation. And I feel like you could also, if you wanted, turn that into some sort of challenge too. Like for yourself, if you wanted to give yourself a challenge, but not necessarily fitness related, it could be more in the hobby space or like a reading challenge or something like that, just while the motivation's high.
Yes. And the last thing I wanted to mention is dry January, which we actually have like a full episode from, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, where we both did dry January and talked about it in detail. But this is something like, it's just so hip right now. I'm seeing so much dry January content. And so I think if you are on the fence about it, that's a sign that you should do it. And this is the first year in 4 years that I'm not doing it. And I go into like all the details of why in previous episodes. But I just feel like if you're thinking about it, this is the best time to try a sober challenge because everyone's into it. And at least in Toronto in January, I feel like you don't go out that much. Like it's so cold, it's so dark. This is the time to be at home and cozy. So it's a good time to try a little detox like that.
Yeah. Another good challenge for yourself. Dry January. Love that. Awesome. Well, I think where I wanted to end this episode is perfect segue from what you were just talking about in terms of January being a great cozy month. I feel like there's a lot of pressure to be super productive and set all these goals and, you know, okay, January 1st, let's start crushing these goals and like redefining who I want to be this year. And I think it's great if that's what inspires you, motivates you, and excites you. But it's also okay if you take it in strides and don't do it all on one day. And to your point, Tag, it's also probably more sustainable if you don't just show up and do it all in one day and just like kind of go from 0 to 100 overnight. So also wanted just to kind of mention that where winter, January, it is a great time to slow down and hibernate, be cozy, you know, stay home. For me, it's a lot of like, okay, I don't want to spend money after the holidays. So I just want to kind of stay home, take it easy. So I don't know, just wanted to mention that as well, where if, you know, we just went through, I feel some like pretty common ways to kick off the new year. If they're not really resonating for you, that's okay. And you don't need to do all of this January 1st or 8th, whatever day this episode's dropping. You can just take it day by day. Maybe you like, you know, journal a little bit. Maybe it's not a full new year reflection or previous year reflection, new goals. Like, I don't know, maybe you just find little ways to show up for yourself because I think that still goes a long way as well.
Yes, 100%. I've seen this trend on TikTok where people are treating the first day of spring as their new year, because then it's like the earth is awakening, I want to actually leave my house and that sort of stuff. And they're like, winter's for me to get cozy and take care of myself. So it's like you can set goals that are valid for that, or if you're like, I want to get out there, I don't want to sit in my house, you know, you can set goals that way as well. It's really like a choose your own adventure kind of thing.
100%. Awesome. Well, that is everything we have for you guys this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, please subscribe or follow us on whatever app you're listening to this. You could also rate the show and leave a review. That helps us more than you can know. You can also follow us on social media at Our Golden 20s. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We also have Pinterest boards. We have Spotify playlists. And we are on Patreon, which is the best way to support the podcast for as little as $2 a month. But that's it for this week. We will be back next week with a whole new episode, so we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye.